Hello folks, it's the Pacer Chaser again. Welcome to another one of my videos. This is another one in the Tramming series where we look at the old tram and trolleybus routes around Grimsby and Cleethorpes. We're here in Victoria Street in Grimsby. It's a Sunday morning in October of 2022. I'm going to start the Grimsby to Cleethorpes route. I think this is going to be a two-parter. It might run to three depending on how we do on the next bit. What I do know today is that we're going to go from Grimsby to Park Street, which is the boundary between Grimsby and Cleethorpes. So we're just walking along Victoria Street where we left the town centre video. You can check that out on my channel. We did that some months ago. So this route was opened by the Great Grimsby Street Tramways Company as a horse-drawn tramway in 1881. Between Grimsby and Park Street. It was extended over the next few years from Park Street to Cleethorpes. In 1901 it was electrified, converted to run with electric trams. The depot for the horse trams was at Park Street, so we'll see the site of that at the end of this video. It wasn't suitable for housing electric trams, so they built a new depot for those and a power station to power them as well at Pelham Road in Cleethorpes. We'll see that on the next part of the series. So the Great Grimsby Street Tramways Company were a subsidiary of Provincial Tramways, which was an organisation that operated trams and later buses in various towns and cities throughout the UK. They eventually sold most of them off to local owners, who just ended up running around Gosport and Fareham in Hampshire. But they opened this route. In 1925 they sold the tramways in the Grimsby and Cleethorpes. In the Grimsby area, just in the Grimsby area, to Grimsby Corporation, or the council, as you might say. I'm just going to deviate slightly off the route, just to show you the back of the bus garage in Victoria Street. The reason for that will become clear in a minute. So there you go, just a quick shot of the back of the bus garage. You can just see the strange construction. I'll speak about that in a minute. So as I mentioned, in 1925 the tramways within Grimsby were sold to Grimsby Corporation, but the depot and power station were kept by Great Grimsby Street Tramways because they were in Cleethorpes. So Grimsby Corporation needed a depot, and they built one here in Victoria Street that we're about to see. Just incidentally, in the days of trams and trolleybuses, the roads you can see going across here were not there. There was just one road, Victoria Street, which comes from over there where we've just come, and it came straight across. There was just this one road across here. You see some of the old buildings there on the other side of the road. But yeah, it was just that one road, the bits going across, more modern additions. So we've got the lovely name of Grimsby Street just across there. You can see that on the video. And we're just approaching the what's now the Stagecoach Grimsby depot. It was Grimsby Corporation Transport's garage. There is a video on my channel, a very short one, of the workshop area of this garage, which shows this doorway that we're approaching open. You can see the tram rails in the floor of the garage going under what's now the workshop area. Unfortunately it's shut this morning because it's Sunday morning, but you can see the tram rails in the ground there, look. So this was one of the original entrances to the tram depot. So we've crossed the road. There's the entrance that we've just seen. There were two entrances to the tram depot. That was for trams going to or from Grimsby Town Centre. The other one was where the little blue door is there. As you can see, it's long since been bricked up and some offices built, but that was for trams going to or from the Cleethorpes direction. And you can see up there, look, it still says Grimsby Corporation Tramways 1925. The rest of the depot complex is later additions for buses. It was all covered at one time. What's now the open yard in the middle was a depot, but in the early 2000s they had a fire and it destroyed the roof of that part, so unfortunately it's now an open yard. Now the reason I showed you the bus garage was Grimsby had been negotiating for quite some time to buy the tramways in their area, but not much had happened. Just have another shot of the garage building, there we go. Then in 1925 all of a sudden the sale process went through and they needed a depot because, as I said, the one that was in use was in Cleethorpes and was retained by Great Grimsby Street Tramways. Now, in the First World War, there'd been a seaplane base just up the River Humber at Killingholme, and after the war ended it was mothballed to see if they needed it. They decided after a few years that they didn't need to use it again, and so they sold off the equipment. And what Grimsby Corporation did was they bought a couple of the seaplane hangars and erected them side by side. And then to disguise what they'd done, they built the frontage that we've just seen with the Grimsby Corporation Tramways 1925 on it. They built that to hide it, but behind it there were two old aircraft hangars, and that's the unusual construction that I showed you earlier on. It's a very quick and quite cheap way of building a tram depot. So we've got Tesco's there on the right. That will become relevant in a little bit, so I'll explain that a bit later on. So we're still heading up Victoria Street. Just to the left there we've got Corporation Bridge, the other side of which was the terminus of the Grimsby and Immingham Electric Railway. There's a feature on that on my channel as well. Look that up if you want to. There's some old buildings on the corner there. See, just beyond them the Victoria Flour Mills. We're coming into a part that was quite heavily industrialised. That's been preserved. It's now flats, which I'm pleased to say, so it's there for future generations to see. Just another shot of Corporation Bridge before we leave it. They've just had permission to do that up actually. It's October 2022. Apparently work's going to start in January of next year to refurbish it, which will be good. It's a bit of a better shot of the flour mills there. Got modern development on the right hand side. Again, that will become relevant. I should mention as well that I've got Alfie the Border Collie with me again, so if I shoot off to the left all of a sudden it's probably because he's just smelt something interesting. It's been quite a while since I did one of these videos. We've had a lot of hot weather over this summer. It's been far too hot for me to walk about, let alone for Alfie to do it. So hence we've had a pause of a few months in shooting the videos. We did actually get to 40 degrees just down the road in Coningsby at one point, so as I say, it's been far too hot to wander about. But we've got to October, so I thought I might quickly do it before we start to lose the light. Lovely old building there on the left. You can see some of the grandeur this area would have had at one time. So we're just going towards the end of Victoria Street. Let's show you this building quickly. This is a 1950s building. It's been empty for a long time. It's just been acquired, as you can see, for clients. I believe they're going to pull it down. It's not the prettiest building, but it's nice to see one or two of these surviving, just to show the story of this period of architecture. Obviously the trams wouldn't have run past it, but the trolleybuses would have done. So as we said earlier on, Grimsby Corporation took over the trams in their area in 1925. This route between Grimsby and Cleethorpes became a joint operation between Grimsby Corporation and the Great Grimsby Street Tramways. They would each have provided a number of tram cars and run the service between them. In July 1936, Great Grimsby Street Tramways, provincial tramways, sold the tramways in the Cleethorpes area to Cleethorpes Corporation, and the route briefly became a joint tram operation between Grimsby Corporation and Cleethorpes Corporation. Again, they would each have provided a number of cars. Cleethorpes Corporation took over the depot and power station in Pelham Road. However, in November 1936, Grimsby replaced their trams between the town centre and Ryby Square with trolleybuses, and the trolleybuses ran onto Park Street. Grimsby did retain a short section of tramway between Ryby Square and Park Street to operate tram cars at shift change times on the docks, and also when there were football matches on at Blundell Park, Grimsby Town's ground. Because they wanted to abandon the tramway completely between the town centre and Ryby Square, they came to an arrangement with Cleethorpes Corporation to store that handful of cars in Cleethorpes' depot. But if you wanted to travel through at that period from Grimsby to Cleethorpes, you had to get the Grimsby operated trolleybus from Grimsby to Park Street, and then get off and get onto a Cleethorpes operated tram car from Park Street to Cleethorpes. Not ideal. The arrangement with storing the tram cars finished in March 1937 when they abandoned the Grimsby part of the tramway entirely. But then in July of 1937, Cleethorpes converted their route to trolleybus operation, and it became a joint trolleybus operation between Grimsby and Cleethorpes Corporations So the trolleybuses would have run straight through from Grimsby to Cleethorpes again, and they each provided a certain number of buses and ran it between them. So we're here at the end of Victoria Street. What you can see over there, all of this road going off to the left and across wasn't there. This was one road. It basically was Victoria Street. It went around a 90-degree bend and became at Cleethorpes Road. You can see these buildings on the corner. This is the original corner of Victoria Street and Cleethorpes Road. None of what you can see there was there. It was all just timber yards with a few railway sidings to serve it. On the opposite side of Cleethorpes Road there were a couple of dead-end back streets. You can see some older buildings just across there that survived from those. But yeah, the trams and the trolleybuses were just to come around the 90-degree corner onto Cleethorpes Road. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, it's Cleethorpes Road, not Cleethorpes, because it predates the building of Cleethorpes, the place. So yeah, the trams, trolleybuses would have come round here. I apologise for some idiot in the car shouting there. We do these videos early on a Sunday morning, partly to try and avoid any traffic noise, but also to try and avoid any idiots like that, because unfortunately if you're doing anything that's not smashing things up and getting drunk and being a nuisance, people tend to shout abuse at you. So as you can see across there's a flyover. That was built in 1967, so the trams and trolleybuses wouldn't have used it. What they would have used to get across the railway line, which is just ahead of me, is a level crossing. Now this was supposed to be the busiest level crossing in Great Britain. There were about 40 train movements an hour over it, so it created absolute chaos with the traffic and with the tram and trolleybus schedules as well. The reason it was so busy, under there at the minute, there's just the line between Grimsby and Cleethorpes, which sees either 1 or 2 trains an hour each way. You've got the Manchester to Cleethorpes every hour, and vice versa. You've got a 2-hourly Cleethorpes to Barton on Humber service. And then there's the odd extra one. Some of the Lincoln services go through early in the morning, late in the evening. And on a Saturday, usually, there's a service to Sheffield via Brigg. That's suspended at the minute, but I believe it's supposed to be reintroduced in December of 2022. But there's still not many trains under it. Back in the day, there wouldn't have been that many on the Grimsby to Cleethorpes line. There wouldn't be many more than there are now, apart from on summer weekends when excursion trains were coming through. The vast majority of the traffic was across the other line that went under there, which has now been removed, which was a connection into the docks. And most of the trains using it were local freight trains, or trip workings as they called them, going between the docks and the goods depots. And the goods depots were where Tesco's and the new development with Next in were situated. That's why I showed you pictures of those. See, we haven't used the flyover. I often wonder what drivers from out of town think when they see a man and a border collie appear in the middle of the road. But this is the pedestrian route across it. You just see there's the railway line to Cleethorpes going round to the right. The dock office is in front of me, and the connection into the docks we're talking about went off to the left. When I used to come here as a teenager in the early 90s, you could still see the connection into the docks, although it was disused. And until more recently, you could see rails in the road there, but as you can see, it's all been removed now. A lot of books always make a reference to the fact it's quite ironic that this flyover was built in 1967 at a time when the docks were in decline. The rail traffic was in decline, and there wasn't as much traffic as there was previously. But to be honest, it was a good investment. I mean, even with 1 or 2 trains an hour each way, you wouldn't want a level crossing in the middle of the A180 nowadays. You can just see as we descend from the flyover, there's the remains of one of the huts next to the railway there. The level crossing was actually that busy. There was a policeman on point duty stationed on it as well, which I think was probably unique on a level crossing. So we're coming back onto Cleethorpes Road. You can see some of the old buildings here. Just looking back to where the level crossing would have been there, look. And then we're just approaching Ryby Square. We covered Ryby Square in the Hainton Avenue tram route video. The Hainton Avenue trams, trolleybuses went off to the right of here, down Freeman Street. As we said in that video, there was a connection between the two routes, but it was only used by tram cars or trolleybuses that were out of service going to or from the depots. They didn't actually use it in service. So here we are coming into Rugby Square. Freeman Street going off to my right, the Hainton Avenue tram and trolleybus route. You can see by the size of the shops and the buildings that this was quite an important area. It was quite heavily populated. In the streets behind these buildings to my right there were a lot of terraced houses. They were just being built at the time that the horse tramway was opened around 1881. It was a heavily populated area. They were mainly torn down in the 1960s and replaced with tower blocks, which themselves have now been demolished. So behind here now there's basically just a wasteland. There's a few houses that date from like the 1960s and 1970s, but not many. But it was a very heavily populated area. So you've got the theatre there, so it was ideal for tram and trolleybus operation. Lots and lots of people travelling, lots of short riders to local shops and things like that. So yeah, it was a very good place to be running a tram or a trolleybus. So we're still heading along Cleethorpes Road. As you can see, it's an area that's fallen on hard times. Some derelict buildings across there. So I mentioned in the previous video about turning arrangements. Tram cars could just turn around and go back again if they didn't want to go the full length of the route. Basically you could drive a tram car from either end. They had a trolley pole that picked up the power mounted on the roof. If you take Alfie as the tram car, the trolley pole would always have trailed behind. So if we're going this way, she's just drinking from a puddle at the moment, but the trolley pole, the equivalent of the lead, would be like that. If you wanted to turn around and go the other way, you just move the trolley pole round so it stuck the other way and then drive back again. A trolleybus, you couldn't do that. You had to physically turn the vehicle, and they came up with various ways of doing that. And I'm mentioning that because we're about to see some of the streets that they use to turn trolleybuses round. I should mention as well that Alfie has got a lovely bowl of clean water at home. He just does love a puddle when we're out and about. Don't ask, it must be a dog thing. So back towards Rugby Square down Cleethorpes Road, and we're looking towards where we're going. So Park Street is the second set of traffic lights you can see. There's a bus standing up there at the moment. You can also see a water tower in the far distance. That's in Cleethorpes. That's adjacent to where the depot and the power station in Pelham Road would have been. So not a million miles away. So the trams and trolleybuses on the main route would have run straight down here, straight down the main road and into the distance and off to Cleethorpes. As we said, there were short workings. Trams would just stop at Park Street, as we say, turn round and go back again. Trolleybuses had to physically turn. Now at Park Street there were facilities for them to turn in both directions, so you could come from Grimsby, turn around and go back to Grimsby, or you could come from Cleethorpes, turn around and go back to Cleethorpes. And we're going to see the Grimsby one now. I'll run through the Cleethorpes one as well, but that'll be mainly in the next video. So again, just before we turn off, you can see the traffic lights at the junction of Park Street there, so the main route, just straight up the main road there. The depot at Park Street is also referred to as Car Lane in some sources. The reason for that, if you go down Park Street for about half a mile, you will come to a roundabout known as Five Ways. And if you go straight across that roundabout, the road becomes Car Lane. Now, as we mentioned, when the horse tram was being built in 1881, this area was only just being developed. And I believe the road was actually known as Car Lane then. When they developed it and they built the houses on it, they changed the name of this section of it at this end to Park Street. So we're going to leave the main road now. We're going into Rutland Street for a short distance. So trolleybuses wanting to turn round and go back to Grimsby would do a right turn into here from the main road. And then they'd run a very short distance along Rutland Street and do a left into here, which is Hamilton Street. Just wait for Alfie to finish sniffing the fence. There we go. And so they run along Hamilton Street in the direction we're about to go. You can see Park Street there where the car's just gone across. Just apologise for the light. It's that time of year, unfortunately, where it's either really bright sunshine like this or it's absolutely pitch dark. Just a nice bit of a derelict works building there on the corner. Just show you a better shot of that. I'm not quite sure if that had anything to do with the horse tramway, if it was stables or anything, because on the other side of the road here where these flats are. This was the site of the horse tram depot. As you can see, completely redeveloped, but that's where it was, just in this little bit of land here. So the trolleybuses on the short working would have come along here, done a left into Park Street, where that car's just gone across. The ones from Cleethorpes would have come down the main road towards us, done a left turn into Daubney Street, which is just ahead there. You can probably see it, I don't know for the light. And then they would have turned right into Sydney Street, which is coming towards us here. And then they would have turned right into Park Street and run along the same way as the buses from Grimsby. And then the Grimsby trolleybuses would have done the left into Cleethorpes Road, and the Cleethorpes ones would have done the right into Grimsby Road and gone back to Grimsby and Cleethorpes respectively. So there we go, to my left is the road back to Grimsby, Cleethorpes Road, Grimsby. To my right, Grimsby Road, Cleethorpes. We'll be heading down there in the next video in this series towards Cleethorpes. And again, just in this bit of land here, the horse tram depot, or the site thereof. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to go home and get Alfie some breakfast. I might have some myself as well. So take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.